Hello and welcome to week 2 of EDU 508. First, I'd like to apologize for you guys not being able to see the week 1 stuff. That was a setting in D2L that I've never encountered before, as everything I looked at showed that things should be visible. So thank you to those of you that pointed out that it wasn't working correctly. And with that in mind, knowing that you guys only got week 1 stuff on Thursday and might still be finishing it up, I'm going to try to keep this recording as brief as possible. This week's focus is understanding trauma in development and youth at school. Just a quick reminder to include a scholarly source in your citations for your discussion board posts. You do not need one in your responses to initial remarks. And it is okay to use TED Talks, podcasts, texts, etc. Scholarly articles is a very broad term. Just make sure that you're working on your APA citations. And then for the length of your assignments, this includes discussion boards and the assignments, try to hold true to the length in syllabus. If you're way under, generally that means you didn't go into the depth that we're looking for. And try not to go way over, just knowing that you're probably starting to repeat yourself. So trauma is any event or series of events remembered, forgotten, or unknown, which triggers the fight, flight, or freeze responses, impairs the function of the autonomic nervous system, causes a person to become stuck in a physical, emotional, spiritual, or ancestral loop of unhealthy emotional expression, physical illness, mental illness, and repeated generational patterns, and is stored as a low-frequency energy that must be consciously observed, felt, and released in order to heal. So just a pretty good definition of trauma there from Lindsay Lockett. You can go and see her website at lindsaylockett.com. And then this is taken from the Beacon House Therapeutic Services and Trauma team. So I will just leave that there for you guys to view and look at kind of the brain development in a child and how things are impacted by trauma. The textbook will go more into that. And just always remember that, like, when looking at the iceberg model, you're not usually going to see the trauma. You might even not know it's there. Same thing with like ACEs scores. It's down here. You got to dive deep to find it. Kids probably aren't going to want to talk about it. Just know that it could be there. This week, you have an initial post due Thursday for 2 discussion boards and responding to my initial remarks. And then responses to your peers in the discussion boards by Saturday. The week 2 assignment is due on Saturday at midnight. And there are 3 chapters to read. It's a pretty average week for this course. So discussion board number 1. Behavior is the observable response to our internal and external experiences. This broad definition suggests behaviors are outward signs of one's internal bodily process, such as emotions, thoughts, and plans. So too often we build all of our recommendations in the classroom on what we see rather than considering what lies beneath. So what we want you to do here is think about a student you have found challenging in your career. They could be a current student, they could be a past student, could be a kid you lost sleep over, or you struggle to engage in the classroom. Utilizing the iceberg model, so there is a actual model that is posted in the week 2 course material files to use. What do you know as information recognized, that which is above the iceberg, and what might be below the iceberg? Would you assume that they had a healthy attachment with their primary caregiver? Why or why not? If not, how would you define their attachment issues based on their observable behaviors? And how does this impact your role as advocating and leading trauma-informed schools? So one note here, when we're talking about students, don't be super specific on their name. You can just call them, little Timmy, little John, whatever. Just try not to use their real name or identifying information. So this is a safe space, but we still want to make sure we're protecting the anonymity of our students. Discussion board number 2. Reflect on school-wide practices and routines, common discipline, behavior modification systems, or other structures within your school, current or past. Identify 2 of the practices that have the potential to re-traumatize students. Given what you have learned about building trauma-sensitive classrooms in schools, what would be your plan of action to alter or remove those practices? Who would you include in making these changes? And what support resources would you need? Make sure you include scholarly articles as previously discussed. All right, now assignment 1. This is one of the few cases where you can use I. You are specifically writing in first person for this paper. Please note that for basically every class, unless otherwise told, you should be writing in third person. So no I's. But this assignment and a couple more, it will ask you to write about your own experience, and therefore we want you to use I. So this is about the students in your class. If you are not currently in a classroom but have been in the past, write about the past. Otherwise, if you're not in the classroom right now and you haven't been, shoot me an email and we'll discuss what you should write about. So the first paragraph introduction is just why are you writing this, which is kind of right here. That's the reason you're writing it. So just build out on that a little bit. Share the overall presenting social and emotional needs of your students. What do you see going on? And then, if the ACEs questionnaire were to be administered to students in your classroom, what might the range of ACEs scores and categories be? You are just assuming here, you're not actually administering the questionnaire. Do you think there's an impact of the student trauma experiences in your classroom on how they're learning? And then just try to wrap it up in one paragraph. Please include an APA formatted cover page plus 2 pages of written content. And make sure you include a reference page at the end. If you have questions on APA, please shoot me an email. I highly recommend buying the 7th edition APA manual. That's the only book that I have told students in this program they should actually buy hard copy. I still have my 6th edition from when I was working on my master's and my doctorate, and now I have a 7th edition to do this work. It's just a good reference to have on hand, and that way you can put tabs in it to find things that you use all the time. The number one thing that I see people struggling with in general is headings and how to do them correctly. Even if they're pretty good at the rest of APA, headings seems to be hard, so that's a page that I have bookmarked in my own book. And then lastly, I try to always make my initial remarks, questions, something rather easy, maybe a little fun. What is one thing you are looking forward to this spring in your classroom? I can say that I am looking forward to. That's a great question. We have a lot of big changes in the DOC happening right now, and I am looking forward to hopefully some of that settling down by late spring and being able to see kind of where we land once all the big changes have been implemented. So have a great week. I look forward to reading all of your work. I will be working on grading everything from week 1, pretty much today through Wednesday. So please make sure you get everything done for week 1 by Wednesday, as I won't put any zeros in until then, as I know it was my fault for everything getting posted late. So good luck. Have a great week. Look forward to seeing what you work on.